Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Hello and welcome back to All for United's tactical preview ahead of the Man United versus Leicester game after what's been, I think we can all agree, a very exciting international break. I'm sure you've all enjoyed it massively, as you always do. It's been a barren couple of weeks, but at least we haven't had to watch United play. So, Wes, Cal, Stu, bit of a new look lineup for the tactical preview. I hope you guys are all doing well. Thanks for joining me. But we'll jump straight into it. I suppose the big point we've got to focus on, I'll come to you first, Wes, is Harry Maguire. You know, the performances haven't been that great. He's being booed now. So, you know, from a tactical point of view, does he still get in this United lineup? Is him and Varane still the best partnership to go with? Or do you think he needs to have a little bit of time out, sort his head, get Lindelof in and see where that takes us?
Personally speaking, I think obviously his head's not right at the moment. I was disappointed that he got booed for England because every time he's played for England, he has played well. His performances this season at United haven't been fantastic. However, I think the criticism that he has got, the abuse that has been fired his way is a bit extreme to the point that I think, he can't do right before wrong. And I mean, I've been sat in Stretford End during games. Raphael Varane will do something, he'll get plaudits for it, and then Harry Maguire will do the exact same thing, and he'll get hammered for it. So I think he's got a bit of a burden on his shoulders. I do think the armband is a bit too heavy for him. I think that's something that obviously the next manager will address. But personally speaking, the statistics don't tell lies. When Harry Maguire's played alongside Raphael Varane, we've conceded less more goals. So personally speaking, I mean, I would play him against Leicester. I think personally he has got a point to prove in terms of playing against Leicester. The last time he did play against Leicester, he didn't have a very good game. And coming off the back of a decent England performance, I think this is the kind of game where Old Trafford can really show some support to our player at the end of the day. Because I don't believe for a second he goes out there and purposely plays badly. He's probably just in a difficult place at the moment, but I would play him, and I'm looking for a response from Harry on Saturday. So to answer your question there, James, I would continue to play him at the moment, and that's no disrespect to Lindelof, because I think when Lindelof has played, he's played well. He's good on the ball. I like the pass that he plays directly into the forwards and then behind. He can make that pass very well. But personally, I would continue to play Harry at the moment.
Yeah, so it's a fair point. I'll come to you, Carl. We'll focus more on the game specifically and what United need from a back line. Obviously, Leicester's front line is traditionally quite pacey. It depends if Jamie Vardy comes in. Obviously, his legs are fading a little bit. Oh, is he out? There you go. It's going to be a pacey front line from Leicester then. Do take any context out of it. Just go on pure football and ability, what the two offer. Are you still sticking with Harry Maguire to deal with that sort of front line?
I actually did another preview and I said Lindelof and Varane would probably start. I think it depends on how Ralph looks at it. I think with the way England fans were booing him, which, by the way, I think has been blown way out of proportion. But I think it depends on how Ralph looks at it in terms of how his head is. On one hand, I think maybe taking him out might be for the benefit, because his head might not be right. He just might not be feeling it. He knows that he's probably a little bit not loved by the fans at the moment. So maybe a game out of the United squad might sort of get his head a bit clearer. Or Ralph might stick by him and go, no, show how good you are, or show the mental strength that you have by playing you. So I think it can go on of either way. I personally think he'll probably go with Lindelof and Varane. Like you said, there is quite a pacey front line from Leicester. And with Harry being quite a slow centre-back and quite slow on the turn, I think the likes of Varane and Lindelof will probably deal with them a little bit better. At this stage, I just want to see an all-round performance from all of them. I just want to see a bit of fight, because for the little chance that we do have of getting top four, it'd be nice if they did actually show that little bit of desire and show that there still is something to play for.
Yeah, Completely agree. Completely agree. Well, Stu, I'll come to you because I know this is a topic that you like to talk about a lot.
I
But
do. I do.
we saw Harry Maguire's best performances in a United shirt with Dean Henderson behind him, a keeper who
Yeah.
closes that space and allows him to push up high. So is it a concern for you that Ralph hasn't noted that and he's not really tried it at all? Despite Maguire struggling.
It's a concern for me that the whole fan base hasn't noticed it. I mean, it's phenomenal. I can't quite get my head around it. Maguire's a starter for me. You don't take a seasoned professional at the lineup because he got booed. You just get on with it, And if he doesn't want to get on with it, then he's got to start looking at himself. And the thing about it is, and Carl knows my viewpoints on Varane, and Wes has made a few points about it as well. Varane has been no angel this year. Varane hasn't pulled any trees up in his performances. Neither is Lindelof, and neither is Maguire. But fans always need a scapegoat. And unfortunately, because Varane is so-called Champions League Varane, he's won X, Y, and Z. He hasn't done it by himself, by the way. He did it with Pepe alongside him. And by the way, Pepe is now 39 years old and starred for Portugal the other day. He had Sergio Ramos beside him. He hasn't got these types of players. He had a commanding goalkeeper behind him in Navas. Navas would command his 18-yard area. Okay, so all of these contribute into how a centre-half pairing play. And why I keep babbling on about the spacing behind the centre halves and the goalkeeper, it's a realistic problem for us. Now, luckily, I don't think with Vardy not playing, I don't think that pacey up top. But if if you were to bring in Henderson, and Maguire knows that he can play that little bit higher up. He can start pushing the play out a lot more, and we can work from the back with De Gea in it. World-class shot stopper. We all know this. I'm not arguing about his ability, but there's a whole plethora of skills you need to be a goalkeeper, and it isn't just shot stopping. It's being able to communicate. It's being able to talk. And I've said it before, and I'll keep saying it until I'm blue in the face. Centre half myself, I'm always looking behind and I'm listening. Where do you want me? Do you want me 10 yards up, 10 yards back? Then I'm looking across the line to see where my fullbacks are and my centre half partner. If he's too far away from me, which, by the way, Varane and Maguire, they're way too far apart. They don't tuck in together. And I'm speaking, and I'm saying, I need you across 10 yards. Football isn't as complicated as we all like to make out. We all like to think that football is a complicated sport, and it isn't. It's full of common sense. That's all you need in football to start with. And Cal made a really good point, actually, and so did Wes. He doesn't like the ball into feet because he's no good on the turn. But a player like that should drop off 2 or 3 yards anyway. So you've got to make your own space. People say, well, yeah, you're not pushing and you're not pressing a player. You don't need to press a player sometimes. You've got to make that player think about what he's got to do. Instead of you going to that player and making the tackle or making the, barging him out of the way, you've got to make that player think what I'm going to do in those 3 travelling yards that I've got. What do I do? Do I go around him? Do I stop? Do I play it to my left? You've got to make him think. And Maguire is at his best when he makes a player think. He's not at his best when he steams in. And that's the key to being a centre-half. You've got to have thought, balance in your brain to be able to do that. So, Maguire all day long for me.
Maguire all day long. Well, Wes, I'll come to you because obviously we've not spoken in a long time, and this is a debate that's been roaring on recently. It's about the goalkeepers. Obviously, De Gea's his legacy at United is untouchable, isn't it? He's a club hero. He always will be. But we've seen weaknesses in his game. So, are you along the same lines as Stu, where you feel a bit hard for Dean Henderson that he hasn't been given a chance at all?
Yeah, I completely agree with what Stu said. I mean, we all know David's an unbelievable shot stopper, but the modern day goalkeeper, it's evolved now. You've got to be able to sweep and come off your line and practically play. You've got to be as good on the ball as you are with your hands in all aspects. We only got to look at the likes of Edison and my mind's gone blank, Alisson. At Liverpool, of how good these players are with their feet, But yeah, I mean, I would have liked to have seen Dean Henderson get a bit more football, get a bit more game time. Obviously, we don't know if anything goes on behind closed doors. If anything gets said, if he's fell out with anyone, we don't know. There was a lot of talk around, previously about things with the media and whatnot, and he ended up having to come out and say that it wasn't him. But, there's obviously a reason why the managers are picking De Gea, and there's probably something not quite there. Maybe Dino is quite not as good as what we think. I don't know. We don't see these players in training every day, so we don't really know what goes on. But, personally speaking, the goalkeeper situation, I commented on it a few weeks back. Obviously, for me, people were saying it's not really a priority. But if you're looking to build a team for the future and for the modern game of football, it's something that you do have to look at. Personally speaking, I don't think either of the goalkeepers should really be, at Manchester United going forward. I think we need to start having some fresh blood in the club. Maybe look at the best goalkeeper abroad who's great with their feet, as Liverpool did with Alisson at Roma, and Edison at Benfica, I believe he was, or was he Porto?
Benfica,
we have to look at the manager who comes in, which way he plays. If he's going to play a similar style to your Guardiolas, your Klopps, etc., playing with football at the back, it's definitely an area that we're going to have to look at. But to answer your question, as I said, I'd like to see Henderson have got more football, but there's obviously a reason why he's not playing. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point you raised. Obviously, we don't know what goes on the training ground either, do we? We can only look at what's happening on the pitch. So there's got to be some sort of reason. But we'll move on. I'll come to you, Cal. We'll move up the pitch a little bit to the fullbacks, more specifically the right back, because I wanted to discuss this a little bit because Diogo Dalot's come in when Ralph first came in, played really well, probably the best he's played in a United shirt. But now in recent weeks, it seems like Wan-Bissaka's won his place back, sort of almost against merit. So what do you make of the whole right-back situation and who needs to be starting against Leicester?
I wouldn't argue. I don't think it was a case of Wan-Bissaka winning his place back. I think it was probably just more of a swap around. A couple of games for Wan-Bissaka, a couple of games for Dalot. At this point, I think Dalot will probably start. Maybe rightly so. I actually, probably a bit controversial, but I actually quite like Wan-Bissaka. I just think he's had a genuinely poor season. I think some of his weaknesses that a lot of people knew about already are being heavily exploited this year. And ultimately, I think what Ralph has always wanted is he wants attacking fullbacks to get further forward the pitch and show a bit of intensity to get the attack started. And I think, we know Wan-Bissaka is brilliant defensively, or supposedly brilliant defensively, but Dalot's much better at getting the ball further up the pitch and faster up the pitch. So I can see him going with Diogo Dalot. Like I say, I don't particularly think at this moment in time either of our fullbacks are brilliant. It's probably another area of the pitch that we want to look at. We definitely wanted to look at it last season, and for whatever reason, we didn't get whoever we were after. At this stage, I think there's just so many issues all over the pitch. So with the way Ralph wants to play and with the statistics showing what they have done, I'd probably say that it'll go with Dalot. And I wouldn't be completely against that because at least we'd start to show a little bit more attacking news down the right-hand side, especially with the fact that Alanga likes to drift into the middle, Sancho tends to swap over to the left, and Ronaldo drifts across the entire forward line. So at least it'd give us some kind of threat going forward along the right side.
Yeah, it's an interesting debate, isn't it? Stu, I'll come to you because I think you can draw parallels between the goalkeeper situation and the right-back situation where you've got De Gea and Wan-Bissaka whose play styles were perfect for the way the game was played maybe 10 years ago. They'd be the best in their positions at this level 10 years ago. And you've got two players who are fighting them for positions who are more, into the modern age of football. So do you think the club's sort of struggling to keep up to date with the modern game? Because we see it in a number of positions where we seem to be stuck in the past with what we're looking for each position.
Yeah, I actually don't think it's a club. Controversially, I think it's a player. I think all that, that responsibility lands at the player's feet. So Wan-Bissaka, for example, he's clearly not working hard enough in training. He's clearly not staying back because he's not developed his game. Wan-Bissaka is your perfect right back in a 4-4-2 situation. You're absolutely right, James. He's more of an oldie worldie right back, but he's impossible to get by when he's on his game. He's got that tackling ability, that real tenacity that wingers hate, and he will go at you, and he will constantly nibble at your heels all the time. And that's brilliant if you're playing a flat back four in a 4-4-2 situation, because then you've got proper coverage from your so-called wider players. The modern day football doesn't allow that to happen anymore, because, as Cal rightly says, we want flying wingers, we want flying fullbacks, etc., or wing backs, whatever you want to call them, which means that our two wider players have to then tuck in a little bit and play like a diamond shape, a diamond three, with you forward. Now, for me, Dalot kind of does fit that, but Dalot's positional sense is absolutely fucking woeful. He doesn't know where he is for 1 minute or the next on a pitch when he's in the defensive third. He's great going forward. Hasn't got a clue. When he gets back into our defensive third, he doesn't know where he is. He's constantly looking over his shoulder, looking left, looking right, instead of concentrating what he should be doing. Now, the problem we're going to have on Saturday is Castagna. Their left wing back is a very much Luca Digne type player, very, very competent with the ball at his feet, very, very quick, got great delivery when he puts his mind to it. And whoever plays over on the right-hand side is going to have to bail out Dalot on more than one occasion. And the other thing you've got to consider, and it just doesn't lie with the right back, it then lies with your midfield three, whoever that midfield three is he picks, because we don't play any width in our midfield. Our wing backs are supposed to play the width. So Dalot knows that he's not going to get the ball off. Well, he probably will off McTominay, but McTominay's only playing a straight ball. He's not playing a more attacking ball. And then if he knocks it into McTominay and then carries on his run, he's not going to get it back, because McTominay won't do that. He'll then put his foot on it. So Dallow's always 5 or 6 yards way far further up than what McTominay's expecting him to. So, look, for me, I think Dalot will get the nod. Wan-Bissaka's our better option for a purely defensive thing, and I think we will need that because of Castagna. But I can see why Dalot will get the place.
Yeah, it's fair enough. Well, let's switch to the other side then. Speaking of attacking fullbacks and everything, Wes, I'll come to you. Obviously, left back's it's been a bit of a non-starter this season, because obviously Luke Shaw's not been as impressive as we know he can be. Tellez, we all know his limitations, but you look at Leicester's right side, and they tend to go with a Mark Albrighton and James Justin behind him. Is that a right-hand side that worries you and requires a defensive structure, or is it a case of we need to be picking the fullback that can offer us the most going forward, because we don't really need to worry about it?
I think that we need to be very careful, particularly on the right side. Albrighton, to me, I've watched Leicester a few times. He's a very good footballer. He's very intelligent. His off-the-ball movement is very good, and his delivery is very good. He's kind of a player in the league that not really many people do speak about, but in Leicester's system, he's vitally important for them. It's the same as the right-hand side, really. We've got two full-backs who and an ahhing a little bit. Maybe we're a bit stronger, probably, on the left than the right. However, I think, like you said, with Luke Shaw this season, I don't know what's happened, really. Luke had a great season last season. From about December onwards, he's had some great performances, but for whatever reason, this season he's taking his foot off the pedal. He's getting caught in possession. He doesn't look as strong. He doesn't look as fit. His delivery has been poor. And I think, on the other hand, that's probably why Tellez is getting a bit more game time, because with Ralph obviously being a more offensive than defensive manager or coach or interim manager, it's all about that delivery. And Luke's not been great this season. And to be fair, I've not really been a fan of Luke's final ball anyway. It's not to the quality again, that you look at other teams' fullbacks, compare it to ours. We've got to get to that kind of level. The likes of Luke Shaw, Tellez, Dalot, and Wan-Bissaka, it's just not at that level, is it? If we're looking at it, I think he's probably going to go with Luke Shaw, probably because as I said, we have to be a bit more defensive minded. And with all due respect to Telles, because I do like Telles, I do think Telles going forward is very good. But defensively, I think Luke Shaw just edges him at the moment on form. As I say, we have to be very careful against Leicester on that right hand side, particularly, or Brighton. As I say, he's a very good player, and he's definitely going to cause problems if we're not tight, if we're not compact. They press well. He's a bit older, but he does like to press as well. So we need to be really, really tuned in from the start, because they will cause us problems. They've been a side that have not played particularly well this season, but any side that plays against Man United at the moment is going to be up for it. It's the cliche where everyone's cup final, but we're that times 10 at the moment because we're beatable. So we've got to be very careful and just probably approach the game a little bit more cautious than what we would normally do. So, yeah.
It's definitely no gimmies in this league, especially with how United are playing. But I'll come to you, Carl. I want to jump further up the pitch because another player who's made some headlines in the international break is Bruno Fernandes. Obviously scored 2 goals to send Portugal to the World Cup. Are we seeing in that game alone what we need to do with Bruno to get the best out of him? Because he played just off the striker, making runs into the box, whereas you watch him at United and he's very heavily involved in build-up on the halfway line. He's not around the box, inside the box as often as you'd probably like. So is this a case of we're using Bruno wrong, or we don't have the midfield to allow Bruno to play that position?
We don't have the midfield. Simple as that. The reason why Bruno has to drop so deep is because the players behind him aren't capable of progressing the ball forward. McTominay constantly hides away from the ball and doesn't show himself for a pass. Fred is definitely better, but I'd argue even Fred is the kind of player who should be further forward up the field as well. He's not a guy that should be sitting deep and bringing the ball forward. Fred should be a guy who is not far away from Bruno, who sees Bruno 10 yards away and goes, right, Bruno, I've done the hard work. There's the ball for you to do something with. He's a runner. He's a fairly decent player going forward in terms of helping out his other midfielders, but he's definitely not a number 6. Ultimately, Portugal have got the players and maybe even the leaders to say to Bruno, you are in a specific place, we need you to be there to help create. Now, when Bruno drops deeper, he can't create anything for the forwards because of how far away he's had to come from them. And usually because of the lack of movement in front of him or beside him from midfield to the forward line, because nobody wants to move to the ball, nobody wants to move into space. And that's the thing that's been going on for a very long time now. Because of that, he has to try some kind of hero ball, which when it comes off is brilliant, but when it doesn't come off, it looks like it's a complete wasted opportunity, when in reality, there wasn't anything on in the first place. When it's something that's been a problem for United all season, and it's something that was probably even a case when Solskjaer was in charge, when it was at the top of Solskjaer's days, really. This is why it always comes back to sort of care, I think, because when you watch them on the telly or when you're in Old Trafford, right, I know, Stu, you go sometimes, but I know you're a season ticket holder, Wes, and I go every other week. So I find myself screaming into the players on the side, just asking them to show themselves for a pass, just move into a little bit of space. McTominay, I think, is probably the number 1 culprit for that. Especially, I mean, Maguire gets a lot of stuff about him, but he definitely doesn't do a lot of stuff. But sometimes he could definitely be helped out with his midfielders. Bruno is probably our best player, I think, and he's definitely our biggest creator. But he still does need help, just like he gets it from the Portugal team. And I think if you were to build the right midfield around Bruno, and with the contract that he's supposedly getting in the coming days, it shows that we are looking to build hopefully something around him. Now, if we can keep doing that, something could give and something could be good. But there's major improvements that are needed in that midfield for that to happen, and probably all around him, from defence and up front. Ultimately, I think people seem to think Bruno's in such poor form, but he's still had a decent season numbers-wise. And I think the fact that he's, in comparison to other years, he's not had his best season, probably shows how disjointed and probably poor is the right word to say. The rest of the team has been. I haven't got an issue with Bruno starting. I don't want to see him and Pogba start. I want to see one or the other start.
Yeah.
And I think he will go with Bruno because I think he will create a lot. I think he'll get the ball in behind their centre backs because Leicester haven't got the fastest centre backs in the world, and Ronaldo, as old as he has still got a little bit of pace. If he was to go with Sancho and Alanga, they're definitely very quick players to get in behind as well. They've definitely got the ability to beat the man as well. So I think Bruno's probably the best option there for that. So I'd definitely stick Bruno in the middle.
Yeah, it's a big shout. Still, I'll come to you on one of the points that Cal made then, just to follow up. He said he doesn't want to see Pogba and Bruno starting in the same team. Now, when we factor in this problem that we really struggle to progress from midfield and, Bruno can't get high enough up the pitch, I'll ask you sort of a double-barrel question in that, are you in agreement with Cal that you don't want to see both of them on the same team? And if not, how do you get that balance between progression from the midfield and defensive solidity as well?
Well, I've been saying for ages that Bruno and Pogba can't play in the same 11. And they just can't because they both played the same role. They like to play a free role. And so that's why you saw Ollie put Pogba out on the left, which it was a wasted position for me. So ultimately, you have to take one out of the equation. And right now, you would take Pogba out of the equation and play Bruno. The thing about Bruno is that, and I said on a show, I think it was last week now, that he should become our focal point. I did actually say that he shouldn't be offered a contract until the summer, contract renewal until the summer. Just stand by. I don't think it's
I said the same, Stu, and I fully agree. I find it just a slightly weird time considering
bizarre,
how long he had, but it was probably just more of a reward in terms of financials, I think.
I think so, but I mean, they could have left it till the summer. In my opinion, it didn't need to be done now. But I think he's the player. Cal's right, and Wes is right. He's the player that we need to develop our team around. So I think for me, my midfield three would be Matic, Fred, and Bruno. Those would be my midfield three, and I'd run Matic because without Ndidi in there, they haven't really got that much pace. I know Tielemans is a great footballer, but he's not great with his pace. Matic will just sit 10 yards in front of our back four. That allows Fred to be progressive because what you've got to do when you've got a player like Tielemans playing against you in midfield, you've got to push him back. So you need a player like Fred who's going to be constantly nipping at his heels. And when we've got the ball, because when you consider Fred as a holding midfielder, one of the reasons he won't take it off the centre halves is he will panic under pressure when he's got the ball. When he's in a freer role as at 8, he doesn't need to panic. So that Matic can find him, and he's always on the front foot. He's no good on the back foot. He's always on the front foot. He's better on the front foot, and that's where you need to stop Tielemans. I'm not quite sure who else will sit alongside them. Is it Mendy? Is it will probably play? I would imagine
probably Mendy. Yeah.
Tielemans again. I don't rate him at all, really, and I think a Matic, a Bruno, and a Fred should sort out their midfield too. I
think their midfield, Stu, will probably be... Sorry to interrupt, mate. I think the midfield will probably consist of Tielemans and maybe Dewsbury Hall, with Ndidi being out.
I thought Dewsbury played further up. Oh, well, anyway.
In the past couple of games, he's played alongside Tielemans.
What a good player he is. What a good player he is.
No, he's decent, isn't he, Dewsbury Hall? Yeah, I was about to mention him because that was going to be... I thought Dewsbury Hall might play behind Iheanacho up top, so they'll play like a 4-2-3-1, so to speak. So I thought he might play just a little bit higher alongside Albrighton and whoever else is they're going to pick. But that'll be our problem. So I think getting older Tielemans will be critical to us winning the match because we all know what Tielemans can do because he's actually destroyed us in 5 of the last 6 matches we played against them. So it's one of those for me. But no, Cal's right. You can't play Pogba and in the same side. Not for me anyway.
Well, let's talk about Tielemans more specifically then, because I wanted to move on to what Leicester have to offer and what we need to work, what we need to sort of figure out how to defend against. Wes, I'll come to you. Obviously, there's rumours today coming out that Tielemans could be available for 25 million now. Obviously, I think that's something United should be all over. And we're not here to talk about transfer talk at all, but he's obviously, when you look at that Leicester team, he's probably one of maybe 3 players that you're really, really worried about. So how do we stop him in particular?
I think first and foremost, I'm in complete agreement with Stu. I think you've got to play Matic 100% against Leicester. Offers that protection of dropping into the back four if he needs to. Progresses the ball well. He can man-mark. His legs aren't fantastic, but he can still do a job in that midfield. You just not. The thing is with Tielemans, you give him time, he's a worldie. He's an absolute worldie. You've got to have a man around him at least, within no more than 5 yards, I think, at all times. Bit like Hazard and Herrera back in there a few seasons ago. Someone tight with him. Whether that's not Matic, whether it's Fred or McTominay do that job, you've just got to get someone tight to Tielemans. You stop the supply because he does, he's a creator. He's sort of a bit like Bruno in a way. He's very creative, scores goals when he needs to. But you've got to stop the supply. You stop the supply from Tielemans. You don't completely stop Leicester because they've got other avenues of creating. They've got Harvey Barnes as well, who's a good player, very creative too. And obviously Dewsbury Hall, who we just touched upon as well, who's a fantastic player. But for me, Tielemans, as you rightly said, he's done a lot of damage in the past. I think we just need to get tied to him, not give him time, get in his face, maybe rough him up a little bit, and try and just dominate the midfield. If we've got to be a bit more rough. We're a nice team to play against, and I don't like it. We're an easy team to play against. We lack aggression. We sort of allow other teams to dictate midfield. But first couple minutes, I'm quite old school. I'd want to go and lay one on someone in first 10 minutes and say, right, stamp my authority. You come into my area again, you'll have another one, and I think that's kind of the approach that we need to do in every game, and not just Leicester. But when you come up against players like Yuri Tielemans, by the way, 25 million is an absolute no-brainer if that's what they want, go and get him, in my opinion. But you've got to get tight. You give him time, he'll ruin you. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Fair enough. Cal, I'll come to you. Other players that are on that list of, ones to watch in that Leicester team have got to be sort of Harvey Barnes and James Maddison in that sort of three behind the striker. So is there one in particular that you're more worried about? And if so, sort of what are they offering? How do we stop it? Can we stop it with the backline and defence? Backline and midfield performing as they have done recently?
Like I said before, I think it depends what kind of United turn up. If it's a team that actually show that they want to get into the top four, which, considering at the start of the season what we thought could happen, is slightly upsetting. But it depends what team turns up. I genuinely think with the likes of Tielemans, Dewsbury Hall, Maddison, everything is going to come through them. And with the likes of Harvey Barnes, which even though Wes said before what a brilliant player is, I still find him so underrated in the league. A lot of people do forget about him. He is a very, very, very good player. So ultimately, there's a few players that maybe not be worried about. I think that's maybe the wrong word, but I think we should just keep an eye on. I think we just need to make sure that we play to our strengths and not play to Leicester's. We need to not, we need to play to our strengths, not what Leicester want us to play like. And ultimately, we need to bury our chances, because the XG of a few of our games has been massive in comparison to the goals we've ended up actually scoring. Ultimately, there are going to be some players that you will keep a bit more of an eye on in comparison to others. I think Harvey Barnes and James Maddison really need to be kept quiet. I think if Stu's right and Vardy is out, we possibly, if Vardy is out, we might end up playing Maguire, because we know what Vardy's like. He likes to play right on the edge of the back line. He likes to play right off the shoulder of the slower centre back, and I know he'll with his time at Leicester and with his time with the England squad, he'll probably know how Maguire likes to play. He'll probably know the best way to nullify Maguire, and so without Vardy, I think you'll probably see Maguire play. It's saying, we've not beaten Leicester, I think, in 3 games in all competition, and 4 games overall, I believe, maybe. No, sorry, 4 games overall and 3 league games, I think.
It's going to be something like that, yeah. Has to be.
Yeah,
because they beat us in the cup, didn't they?
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. I think that's what it is. So it will be nice to actually just get a win against Leicester again, because it was a team that we never seemed to be worried about, and then Leicester always, the past few times, have always done the job on us. In fact, I think the last time we beat Leicester was when we came back out after lockdown in the summer of 2020. So United just need to not upset us and ruin a weekend again. As much as cliche and as sort of broad as it is, we just want them to play well. Leicester are a good team. I think they've had a bit of an underwhelming season. I know they've had games in hands and lots of injuries. I never wanted Brendan Rodgers as our manager, but ultimately Leicester are a very good side and they know how to play well. They know what to do. So we just need to play to our strengths and just hope that we come away with a win. I just want to see the right United team turn up, especially after watching the women's side last week. It'd be nice to see the same kind of desire and effort.
Yeah, I mean, just to add, sorry, James, to what Wes was saying. I mean, Wes, I'm with you about old school. I've been a season ticket holder now for 28 years. And, we sit in the Sir Alex Ferguson stand, been there for years. And I've seen it throughout the years. We've never had a team of posers like we have today. This current team are full of posers. There's no absolute aggression in there. And it didn't matter. My first game was 77, watching Jimmy Greenoff, top end of the field, fucking crunching a centre half. Brian Greenoff, his brother, doing it to the wingers. Big Gordon McQueen, Frank Stapleton, hard as nails as a centre forward.
Joe Jordan.
Hard as nails. Big Joe, I could go on forever. Sammy McElroy, small little short. Fucking only put his foot in, wouldn't he? These are the types of players that we grew up with. And it's difficult to see what's going on. Where, when we were playing City the other day and you've got De Bruyne, the first thing I'm doing is absolutely clattering that fucker. Absolutely clattering on it and standing over him and watching him, not even picking him up and just waiting to see what he's going to do. You're absolutely right. I was taught, the lads know I was taught to play football in segments. You probably were as well. And then you're right. Somebody comes into my area, you're having it, pal. And if you come again, you're having it again. We don't do that. We've got absolutely zero aggression in our side. And it winds me up big time. This goes back to De Gea. My issue with De Gea as a centre half, I'm expecting my goalkeepers to come and punch me out the way to get the ball. We don't do that. So it's poor. So sorry, I just wanted to jump on that because you're absolutely right. I mean, Carl knows my viewpoint on that anyway. So because
we're very much in agreement on De Gea. I think De Gea is a much bigger issue than a lot of people like to make out. But his photography and camera brilliant saves seem to get him out of the shit. But I think he's a much bigger issue than.
Right. Yeah,
he's a much bigger issue than a lot of people care to admit. I'm afraid, and it's. I think you were right before. Was the new blood and a fresh face there would give. I think it'd give the back line a lot more confidence because as much as it's great, patting him on the back after a great save, it'd have been nice if he'd never had to have made that in the first place after him kicking the ball to the opponent from a goal kick.
If I try and get Emi Martinez out of Villa. I think he's absolutely top drawer. I do top drawer goalkeeper. I can't believe that. You what? Sorry,
he's a proper shit house.
Exactly. I can't believe actually Arsenal let him go. Look, Ramsdale's opened up everybody's eyes to a good modern day young goalkeeper. He's terrific, isn't he? Terrific. I quite like Melia out of Leeds as well. I think with a lot more protection. I think he's a great keeper. He's got everything. He's great.
As much as they're right though, Stu, and those players would be brilliant for us and improve us massively. Good God, I'd love to see the meltdown online if we were to get them kind of players. Like Emi Martinez, what a brilliant goalkeeper he is. He's a proper shithouse. But that'd be great in our team. And the thing is, because he plays for Aston Villa, United fans everywhere, Johnny FX, Mark Goldbridge, all these tools, they'll come out and just go, "Oh well, we only signed them from Villa." It doesn't matter. These players improve us.
Yeah. And this is the problem, isn't it? This is the problem. And actually, when you look at what Fergie used to do, he used to get the odd one or two Stardust player, but he would always get players that were right for the club, right for the position, and right for the team. And he wouldn't always go out and spend 60, 70 million. I mean, look, nobody had heard out of Ruud van Nistelrooy, had they? Nobody had heard of him. Fergie knew what he wanted, waited for him, and I think personally one of my favourite strikers that have ever come through. But he was that type of player. Fergie was that type of manager. We need to almost go back to that for me, and I just hope we do. But I just wanted to touch on that, Wes, because I like somebody who agrees with me on
Mm.
because I'm an old school footballer, mate. Period.
Yeah.
I just am.
Yeah, same, mate. Without a doubt.
You know.
I'm going to stay with you anyway, Stu. I know that was a long monologue for you, but
Sorry, pal.
I was actually going to ask you about posers because we've not heard the word in a while, but you brought it up anyway, so that's nicely
Yes.
brought me on. Obviously, there's all this playing to United's strengths, but is there a chance that we can play to Leicester's weakness? Do you see any posers in that Leicester squad that we could exploit ourselves?
Yeah, here lies it. I don't really. I wouldn't even call Tielemans a poser because Tielemans will stick his foot in when he needs to. He's a tough old cookie, is Tielemans. And Carl's right. I'd completely forgotten about Drewsbury Hall. What a player he is! What a talent! For me, it will hinge on the likes of how Soonchu plays, if he plays, because he's one of those that can have a worldie of a game and a poor game. But I had noticed, which worries me a little bit, I'd noticed that Johnny Evans was starting to make the bench again. So he's clearly on his way back to fitness. And that'll be a massive fillip to Leicester if Johnny
Evans... there's a bigger issue to be looking at than Johnny Evans, I think, Stu. Wesley Fofana's back.
Oh, is he?
And he is top draw, elite level centre back, I think.
He is.
And he's back, which could be a big issue, I think, for us.
I think ultimately there would only be one real poser in there, and that's obviously, we all know who that is, and that's Maddison. I mean, he loves himself that much. You know, he carries a mirror in his sock. You know, when he goes back, he gets his mirror out to make sure he's there. But he's one of those that can deliver. But I don't. He's too inconsistent for me as a footballer. I do like him, but he's way too inconsistent for me. And the trouble, and the good thing about Maddison is you can get at him. You can upset him. You can upset his apple cart. You can't upset the likes of Vardy because Vardy knows what it means to play football because he came through the hard way. So he understands even today what it means to play football. Like a Maddison who's driving around in a fucking Lamborghini, whatever. He don't give a damn. He's more interested in his off-field pursuits rather than his on-field pursuits. And that's why, you know, he was in big trouble with Leicester. That's why they were leaving him out because he was too busy giving it the big and on Instagram and all that kind of nonsense. So he does fit into that. A lot of their players, though, like Justin, with you guys, I think Justin's a hell of a fullback. I really do like him. He's tenacious. For us, I didn't realise Fofana was back. That's a good point, that is. I really didn't realise he's back. For us, we're just a bit too meek and mild up top. Even Ronaldo is still a bit meek and mild. He is the old master of the one touch, one goal, you know, one chance, one goal scenario. I think we'll have more of the play. But Fofana's worried me now. Cal, cheers, mate. You've upset me.
To be fair, he made the bench last game, so I don't know how fit he is. Obviously, with the 2-week international break, I wonder if that's helped or hindered him. So I don't know if he'll start, but there is a possibility he could, I believe. So
see, that's interesting because my worry about Fofana starting is I think it puts us into the 18-yard, 20-yard shot area. We're going to have to try and get at their goals by peppering Schmeichel with shots then, because he's brilliant in the air, Fofana is. And if you take Ronaldo out of the equation, no Cavani. Who else have we got that can pop the ball in the back of the net with his head?
Cavani's injured. No way.
Well, this is what I'm hearing. This is what I'm hearing.
What did he break his nail?
Yeah. But no, actually, Leicester are what I call, and I've been on the channel plenty of times and said, the most difficult teams are just players of average ability, but actually know their roles in a team and play together. They become this invisible brick wall. And I think Leicester have had that magic spell over us. And Tielemans, if you remember the last time, didn't Tielemans score 2 worldies or at least a worldie against us? So,
you know what, Stu? You just took my point right out of my mouth.
Sorry,
Leicester are kind of the perfect way to describe a bunch of average players that are probably very good but not brilliant. But I actually think there's a few players in there that are probably better than Leicester. So your likes of your Tielemans, I'd probably put Maddison in there as well. I think the likes of Maddison would probably do well at a team like maybe Tottenham, Arsenal, somewhere just at that level, maybe slightly above Leicester. Tielemans, I think Tielemans could probably go to any team in the world. I think he's that good. Wesley Fofana, he's another player. I think he'd go. I think he'll be leaving Leicester in the next year or two. Ultimately, I think Leicester are kind of the perfect team to be 7th in the Premier League and just on the cusp of breaking into that top 6. I don't think they're ever going to be there consistently simply because of the finances that are involved in the top 6 clubs. Obviously, your likes of Newcastle, Wolves, Everton to an extent, they'd probably make in terms of prestige and how good they should be on paper, if you know what I mean. I think they would probably make up your top 10. But Leicester, they're just such a pragmatic, know what they need to do, attractive football team that ultimately this season probably have underwhelmed. They are 10th in the league. I know they've got 2 games in hand, I think, on United. I'm unsure on how many games in hand they've got and teams around them. But they'd probably be looking to solidify a top 10 place, probably look at maybe breaking into the top 9 or 8. Yeah. They'll probably miss out on European football. I definitely don't think they'd be too fussed about missing out on the Conference League. Ultimately, Man United have got a tough game on Saturday, and I think the players need to be very aware of that. United, I slightly disagreed with your point that Ronaldo's a 1 chance, 1 goal. I actually think Ronaldo's a 5 chances, 2 goals kind of thing. I don't think he's clinical enough to be that. Like Ronaldo's always been famous throughout his career for getting loads of chances, but out of nothing. And he's eventually scored. So I think really United need to be very good at creating chances, and ultimately that's why I think Bruno will start. It's just a case of the front line being clinical enough to score enough goals, because I don't think 1-0 would be enough. I think if it was a 1-0, it'd be a 1-1 finish. United need to score 2 or 3.
Yeah, I was going to go for 2-1. I know James will come round. I was going to go for 2-1. But what I would suggest is where we'll get our best is also, as well as long shots, is hit the diagonals. If we can hit the corner of the 18-yard box, force one of them to, into a rash tackle. That's where we were so clinical under Ollie. We were attacking the diagonals beautifully. We don't do that. We stopped doing it all of a sudden. I don't know why. We don't go deep at all. We don't hit the byline. We don't cross from the diagonals. We tend to cross halfway, about the 9-yard box, and it's no good because it's almost like a corner. And a good defensive unit, which Leicester are, and this is why I'm disappointed with Fofana. Cal. I hope he doesn't come on. You just eat those up all day of the week. Next.
Especially with how Paul would be from corners throughout the season. I know he's scored a couple in a recent week. Yeah. But
and if it gets anywhere near the 6-yard line, Schmeichel's going to go like that. Thanks very much. I'll hold on to it. So there is an issue there. So good points, mate.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, I'll like Sue said, I'll come round the show off with some score predictions. I think we've covered every base that we wanted to, and obviously a couple of you have to leave now. So Wes, I'll come to you first. First goal scorer and final score.
I'm going to go first goal scorer Bruno Fernandes and United to win 2-1.
Cal?
Oh, I'll go a little different then. I'll go James Maddison first goal scorer and United 3-1.
Stu, go on, round us off.
Big Harry is going to pop one in with his head, with that golden nugget of his, and we are going to win 2-1. I think we'd win 2-1, but I'm going to go for Harry. I think Harry's going to do it, and he's going to go up to everyone around the ground. He's going to do fucking that, and so he should. So he fucking should. I would, if I was him.
See, great minds think alike, Stu, because I was going to go Harry Maguire's first goal scorer as well, but
he knows
I can't look past the 1-1, unfortunately. But I like your guys' optimism.
No.
I like your guys' optimism. I wish I could follow it.
It's a shame all these teams didn't come out in support of David Beckham when they were hanging effigies and burning effigies of David Beckham, but or threatening to murder Phil Neville or screaming at Wayne Rooney or helping out Marcus Rashford and Bukayo Saka when they were racially abused. But a few fans boo Harry Maguire and we all stand with you, Harry. Fucking behave yourselves.
Get on with it, exactly. Get on with it. Fuck you.
Get on with it. If I was on his money, if I was on the amount of money these players were on, I'd stay behind after the game for half an hour just to be called a knobhead. Goodness me.
It's true, though, isn't it? It is true. Isn't
Like,
it?
honestly, they need to grow a pair of bollocks, honestly. Like, I get in a time of mental health, yeah, of course, but a few fans booed him. A few idiots in the crowd booed him. Like, oh, God. Nobody bloody... It wasn't exactly personal abuse. He just got a bit of a boo. Like, he's a football player. Like, get a grip.
To be honest with you, I don't think he probably bothered as much as what is being made out. It's more
No, I don't think he is. I'd like to hope he's not, because if he is, then there's a serious problem, isn't there?
Well, yeah, hopefully, good performance on the weekend, you know, is the start of things to come, and he can put it all behind him. But it's not just one performance we need a bit of consistency from Harry.
Yeah. When I was playing, I used to love being the villain. I used to love going away and being the villain, because that's the right thing to do. Be the villain, because it doesn't inspire you as a player. But I just used to absolutely love it. You know, you get the ball, wanker, and all this kind of stuff. Whatever, just get on with it. Fuck you know. Loved it. Loved being the villain.
I didn't know you played football, Stu.
No, nor did I.
Do
you know, I've never mentioned that, James, ever.
No.
I don't like to bring it up. No, but the thing is, I always talk about football from my experiences, and I find it's better to be, for me to be able to talk about it through my eyes. So,
Very good, very good. Well, don't change for the world, Stu.
Which I'm on my way. Yes, I've got to go.
There you go. There you go. Right, we'll finish it there. Thank you very much to you three for joining me. Thank you very much to everyone who joined in as well, got the comments in, tuned in. If you did enjoy it, be sure to like, subscribe. I say stay tuned. We'll have a load of coverage post and pre-match for this weekend's game. But yeah, I've got nothing more to say. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.